Hi everyone, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Savitra, sir, I can hear you.
Yeah. So I think we have Renita, we have Rehan, and we have Kishore. So I think Rehan, you have joined us for the first time, right? Hello, am I audible? Rehan?
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so Rehan, could you give us a bit of a background about yourself before we begin so that we understand what exactly has been your background, what's your current engagement, where do you belong to, and any experience in data before you came in here?
So I am a graduate. I have done BCom IT from St. Joseph College, and I'm here doing CMA plus AI integration in finance, the courses.
Okay, and where do you belong to?
Hyderabad.
Okay. So, but Rihanna, I'm not sure whether you had a chance to go through the previous 7 classes because today is going to be the 8th class. So
Yes, sir.
we're going to have approximately 20 odd sessions. So this is almost like if I could call 30% or 1/3 of this. So did you
Yes.
manage to go through all of those?
Yes, I watched around three videos, previous videos, and I'll be watching them and going through the every like the syllabus and all. Yeah.
Sure. Any reason you joined so late in the process?
Yes, I just took admission like last week.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Uh, uh, please go through the remaining one so that you are aware of what exactly we are doing.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Right.
I.
Okay, fine. So yeah, so I think we have two other people who have been through us or like with us for the other like for almost all the classes, Kishore and Renita. So yeah, I would first like at this could be a good checkpoint to evaluate since we are just 1/3 into the course and there's a big 60-70% remaining. This would be a good checkpoint to evaluate what exactly is the expectation for the remaining section? Is there anything you want a specific focus on, right? Because if you remember, towards the third session or so, we discussed that we are okay to be a bit flexible to incorporate any specific additional topics that you want to. For example, Power BI was something that was discussed, like the basics of Power BI. Even though it's not part of the curriculum, I could take one extra session for you and let me walk you through, provided it is helpful for the majority of that. So we can discuss what exactly is going to be helpful, right? I, for my part, would like to also discuss what exactly, let's say the first 1/3 of the course is done. What does the next 2/3 of the course actually have in store? So let me put that first. So the first 1/3 was basically again as I discussed, right? We are not going to exactly follow class by class because we will be having additional classes, right? So one or two additional classes for sure. So if you could see only 20 classes, it could go to 20 to 23 also, right? So the major focus on the first part has been into concepts and foundation building because without that, no matter how many tools you look at, if you do not have a good foundation in prompt engineering, then it will not work out, right? You should have the ability to write prompts, change them, understand what's the deficiency, compare prompts, compare the output of prompts. All of that is very much required to be successful. That's the reason majority of the focus was put in there. Now, going forward, let's say from today's class onwards, we will be directly going into use cases, right? So you might see that the use cases should have started last class, but we have just taken an additional class for foundation. So we will anyways be extending that beyond those classes if required. So today is where we will be actually going into the industry use cases, right? With examples, and those will start from the easy and it will go into the complex ones gradually, right? So you would have 4 or 5 different domains to experiment. It could be taxation, it could be audit, it could be FP&A, and all of those gradually, right? So that is always there. So because I think this is something I had also made very clear in the beginning that it is there. It's just that it might come a class or two late, because our current focus is on foundation building. It was never mentioned that it will not be done at all, or we have skipped that part, right? So we are anyways going to stick with whatever is mentioned, right? Second, so it would be a good checkpoint to evaluate what exactly are you looking for, so that, I mean, the expectations are so basically, because from my part, I had a certain teaching methodology which I thought would be most useful, considering multiple factors like this AI actually it actually is very, very technical, if you ask me, right? Now, to teach AI in a way which does not require coding, does not, so basically, if you ask me, AI actually is coding. If you talk about AI which is non-coding, then it actually leaves you only with prompts, nothing else. Trust me. Even with low code, no code tools, it's all about prompts. So AI with code is, let's say, actually AI, but for people who are not from a coding background, if they say what's AI, it's actually nothing other than prompts. Trust me, you can actually go and verify this fact. Any low code, no code tool will only use prompts. It will not. You will not be able. You will not. You are not supposed to write any code, because code is a different part of AI, right? And majority of AI is code based. So it's actually very difficult to teach a class of AI without going into code, but prompt is the only way to do it, right? So I understand that till now we have done that. We have tried to improve our uh, LLM skills, our prompt skills and all. But at this point, I'm pretty open to discuss what should be the next set of, the use cases, industry use cases will go on its way, right? There is a certain way of doing it. In my opinion, the plan I had, again, I am pretty flexible provided the class thinks that this should be the right way. What my plan initially was to take a particular data set, understand it. You have to come up with suggestions saying that these are the things. Next, we would use three different type of executions to understand how which is doing a great job. One is using a low code approach in Python. The second is using LLM in Python. And the third is using a direct LLM tool like ChatGPT. Right. So these are the three different approach for the same data set, right? So that we can know which one suits us best, right? So this is basically, I mean, and in my opinion, because I've taught people over decades, I know that this is going to be the best way to learn, right? Because you people are not very technical, and I mean, the way we do a standard stuff, it will not be very useful to like grasp upfront, right? So keeping that in mind, that was my plan. But I am open to suggestions how best we can do for the remaining two-thirds of the session. So maybe I'll start with Renita first. Renita, your suggestions?
So, in terms of the suggestions that I have, I think that
Mm.
you'll probably cover it in the upcoming modules, like how we'll use AI in the different aspects of finance, like which you've mentioned,
Yes,
which is
yes.
part of the course structure, like AI in financial planning, AI in financial
100%.
reporting. So
100%.
that's where I would, I want to see how AI can be utilized out there. So I think which you will obviously cover out.
Yes, yes. So yeah, the only thing is you may think that, oh, it should have been done in the ninth class. It might get done in the 10th or the 11th class, because we would have spent more time in building the foundation. But it will never be a case where, oh, this was not at all covered. That will never be the case, right? It will be covered, but not in the exact same class that was mentioned, because we actually spent a lot of time in fine tuning certain things, right? So that it becomes
Yep,
easy later on. Otherwise, what would have happened? We would have spent less time at the beginning, but while the actual thing gets done, we would have struggled a lot, right?
understood.
So that was my own thinking. So my teaching is always like kind of building a uh, like apartment or a building, right? You make the foundation strong, then the upper stories don't require so much effort. But if you just start with a weak foundation, then there is trouble which is coming. So to answer your questions, all of that would be covered.
Understood, sir.
Yeah. Any other things which you may think, no, it is better if we had this?
I think so. Also, in terms of, I've not used much of Power BI, but which you've just
Hmm.
mentioned that you may have an additional class. So I think I'll probably make myself familiar.
Okay, so I'm just taking it down. So it's like,
Yeah.
how do you build visualization in Power BI without really using, like, let's say those LLMs and all. So basic Power BI skills. Okay. Yeah. Then anything else?
Nothing at this moment. So if I do, I'll definitely let you know in the class.
Sure. Right. And so what I can also request is, Rinita, you could, I mean, of all the 7 sessions that have been done, what again, so you could just provide me, so you can directly reach out to me rather than putting it in this message, right? So in message, if you go, there is an option called everyone and to a specific person.
Direct.
So you can
Okay.
directly let me know, okay, what has been your, let's say, feedback till now. The feedback should be what's been good, what needs improvement, because we are all here to make sure that if somebody gives a feedback about improvement, that is taken care of. So we don't ignore anybody's feedback. So maybe while I'm talking to Kishore, you could just use those 5 minutes, 2, 3 minutes to just pen down your feedback about how the first 7 sessions has been. Is it like useful, not so useful? What has been good? What has been bad? What needs improvement? And so that will actually help me make sure that any issues that's getting addressed, right? So you can use that. You can directly send it to me rather than to everyone, because
All right,
feedbacks are
sir.
supposed to be not seen by others, right?
Okay.
So we
Sir,
can
is
do
there
that.
any email ID that I could write to you? Because I may not have the I have certain things which I just want to bring it to your notice, and I would like to probably let you know one on one. So if
Okay,
there's a I may have to write it at the end of the class. So if there's an email ID, that will be helpful. Otherwise, I'll just convey it to the Simandhar ticket, whatever you're comfortable with.
sure, sure. Okay, so now we can go to Kishore.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
So I think, sir, for me, while I was discussing the prospectus with the Simandhar support team,
Mhm.
I was actually looking at in-depth tool knowledge for Power BI. That was my primary requirement. I understand that the way I mean, from your point of view, it's only the AI part of the tool which you have already covered. But when I
No,
was
no. Okay, sure.
signing,
I would actually like try to interject, because I mean I understand and respect that you had this in mind, but unfortunately, what the Simandhar team had mentioned, that there will be no data analytics because data analytics is already covered. So they you
yes,
wanted purely AI. On my part, trust me on this. On my part, I wanted to have sessions on Power BI as well, but
okay,
because this is an AI thing, I was asked not to have those Power BI sessions, which I can actually accommodate now, because now that if it's a demand from the students, and then I'm always willing to accommodate that. But you have to understand that it was not me who took that out. It was an instruction that because this is a purely AI program, we shouldn't be having data analytics, right? And that was,
understood, sir.
so that's the first thing. Now you can go on. I just wanted to make it clear
Sure.
upfront rather than, yeah,
No, no,
sure, go ahead.
understood, sir. So I think it's not 100% on the faculty, but also my feedback goes to the Simandhar as well. So here, when I was taking the counseling, I had specifically asked because I'm already self-trained on Power BI to an extent. So
Mm-hmm.
the like I've done Coursera and LinkedIn, which I've already called out during my introduction. So I was
Mm-hmm.
looking at how do I write DAX queries, Power Apps, and little more advanced level of the tool. And the same holds
Mm-hmm.
for Tableau as well. So I had
Okay.
specifically asked if this will be covered, and during the counseling, they said it will be covered. That's why I signed up. So
Mm-hmm.
personally, for me, major interest for this course was getting in-depth tool knowledge and hands-on
Mm-hmm.
experience on how, some hands-on experience while I work on a case study or something.
Okay.
Now, the second part to it, on the AI tools, again, linking back to how it is described in the prospectus,
Mm-hmm.
the impression goes as if every topic, just as an example, let it be a vibe coding or let it be the prompt writing,
Mm-hmm.
it will be like for individual topics, it will be a business case that will be worked on. And
Mm-hmm.
like Renita also highlighted, and you have already clarified, maybe it will be covered in the remaining two-third of the entire session. One-third of what has already been covered is just the basics.
Mm-hmm.
But personally, I felt, like example, the most recent one, vibe coding. The steps that you have explained, like how do I create a Python code using AI, even though I don't know the coding knowledge, and how do I implement that with some data, and which can be any background like finance or non-finance. So that portion was good, but interpreting the steps, meaning uh, the correlations, and in case the data it is unstructured, how do I use that vibe coding steps and then apply it to areas of finance is what I felt was uh, maybe again it is too early, you will cover it, but I felt that okay, it was very high level and then maybe I was expecting a little more, and that holds good for pretty much all the topics that we have covered.
So I think if you go to the course structure, it's been mentioned that our practical use case. So when practical use case means two things. One is from session number, so I think from AI in financial reporting and accounting, it will always be a financial data set that we speak about. Till then, till vibe coding was again it's a functionality or a concept, right? So compared, so if you compare vibe coding versus AI in FNP, right? Financial planning and analysis, right? FP&A. So FP&A kind of becomes a use case, a domain, whereas the concept kind of becomes the vibe coding. So vibe coding will be used there. So but because we have never ever used AI to kind of create code, that was just an introduction of how you can use AI to create codes, right? So the application of that will be remaining throughout the kind of entire, what do you say, the remaining 14, 15 classes that we have. So
Yes,
this
sir.
was just a precursor saying that, okay, this is how we will create code upfront. So this is just saying that how you can, so take an example. How can you upload a file into Power BI? I have to show you the functionality, and that will not be differentiated based on whether it's a finance file I'm uploading or it's a manufacturing file I'm uploading. Hope I'm able to make the point clear, right?
Yes, sir.
We are teaching the functionality. Upload a file into Power BI, doesn't matter what sort of domain that file is. Similar thing, when the concept was vibe coding, how you do initiate vibe coding, it doesn't matter what is the data set. It's just that, okay, how do I start? Because when we go to the next classes starting today itself, we will be going into the domain, right? But till then we should have become very comfortable with, okay, how do I initiate the coding process? That was the intent, right?
Yes, sir. Understood. So I think to be transparent, I have raised a ticket with Simandhar, both on the points on how I have interpreted the course content versus my experience so far.
Okay.
And I think my suggestion was maybe it would be good to, like from Simandhar's side, I felt there was a gap between the three of us, meaning faculty, students, plus the Simandhar team, on how the course content should be understood. So since we don't have any background on the AI tools, so maybe we have like a different imagination on what will be covered rather than being told what will be actually covered. So my ask was, to be aligned on what it is, take the feedback from the students, and you've been always open that whatever the demand is, you will accommodate. So I really respect that. So it's just that the prospects is not explained. So orientation
Okay.
also was very high level. Like it spoke about the importance on on the industry and how it is evolving. But I think, um, yeah, I think,
Okay.
yeah.
So
So
now
I
one
don't
more
know.
thing is,
I'm clear on what I was
yeah,
saying,
yeah.
but
So if you remember, like in both the webinars as well as the first day, we showed you a slide which showed all
yes,
these
sir.
LLM tools, right?
Yes.
And trust me, I had a plan that in addition to all that I've shown, there are few more tools which are really useful in the industry, right? So all of those, and not many people in the industry know about that, but they are super helpful for any professional. So I was also planning to bring those as well as an additional tool. But again, just to make, and it's a question not directed to anyone, but just to, I mean, make everyone understand what exactly is AI's usefulness in AI in finance that we are talking about. There are two things. One is if you ask anybody about AI, it definitely requires a lot of hardcode coding, right? But we will never do that. We will not go into a lot of hardcode coding as we discussed. So that actually leaves us with the only other option as prompts. Now, prompts just doesn't mean a very singular thing. It actually means prompts that are getting used in, let's say, ChatGPT, and it's different from how prompts can get used in Collab, right? All of this. So when we talk about prompt, it might appear as if, okay, prompt is such a simple thing, we are only taught prompts, but if you dissect prompts is an entire universe in itself, which says that how I put a prompt in Collab is very different of how I put a prompt in ChatGPT, and maybe how I fine tune a prompt. It's a skill to have. So somehow I've made sure that that part is kind of focused. So if you see the initial 2 or 3 sessions we spent on, okay, put this prompt there, and it was not exactly hit and trial if you think of it that way. It was actually a very structured way of, okay, let's put it and then see what it comes, because you cannot predict what an LLM would actually give. You cannot say that, okay, it will give me, you know what will be typical output, but you cannot even think of what will be the first 3 words it says, right? It's a very pretty non-deterministic tool. So that's the reason we use the same prompt across multiple places, maybe try to do a different thing, so that we get a very, the whole purpose was we get comfortable in prompts, right? But just to make both of you pretty assured that whatever is there in terms of use cases, all of that will be covered, right? So today I have a plan to go into anomaly detection, right? Which again becomes use case in finance, right? So invoice based on anomaly detection and other anomaly detection techniques, right? Okay.
Sure,
So
sir.
yeah,
Thank you so much.
yeah. So uh, sure. So one more thing. So Kishore, maybe when Renita mentioned she'll be back in 5 minutes, so you may just utilize this opportunity to maybe also provide your feedback to me. Maybe you can just directly send to me rather than putting it to everyone, because I mean we don't want that somebody should be influenced by the other people's feedback, right? It has to be independent, right? And you can put about the same thing, what has been good, what has been bad, what needs to improve. So accordingly we can look at it. Maybe you can take this 2-3 minutes because Renita is not there. So once she's back, we'll start the session.
Sure, sir. And just one additional point, just to
Yeah.
close my thought.
Mm-hmm.
Like I work for a pharmaceutical company, and it is very restricted on the external tools or whatever is being used. So we have only Copilot, which is approved. So
Mm-hmm.
let it be email drafting, prompts, or whatever it is. That's the only tool I had exposure.
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT and any other sources. I mean, I haven't tried in my office laptop, but I know that it will be restricted. So
Mm-hmm.
I was also trying to think through on in a real professional space, in case there are any restrictions,
Mm-hmm.
with the limitations I have, how can I apply all this knowledge in my role? So I
So
am in a FP&A
yes,
role. So
yes.
that was also one of the thinking that I was, one of the thoughts I was having on mind.
Okay, so how I would answer this is, we I mean, it could be that you work with XYZ firm, Renta works in ABC firm, so different firms could have different restrictions, right? But we'll have to have the minimum understanding that, okay, at least one LLM tool is allowed in a firm, because if none is allowed, then I mean, it defeats the entire purpose, right? So with the assumption that at least one is allowed, whatever you learned for ChatGPT, you'll have to implement that in, uh, uh, I forgot the name. Which one you mentioned?
Copilot, sir.
Copilot, sorry, Copilot, right? So now, but Copilot will have a restriction in the sense it is not as rich as ChatGPT. So you will have to take a cut on certain things, right? So which maybe the ease with which visualizations can be generated in, let's say, Claude, you will lack that in ChatGPT, and maybe in Copilot furthermore, right? So again, it's a very specific specific scenario that maybe in your firm this is not allowed, that is allowed. In Renita's firm, maybe the other things could be allowed and this might not be allowed. So we are taking a blanket approach that in most of the firms that I've worked on, I know and I have interacted, like they have this Teams version of ChatGPT. They and which is again the paid version. So basically, I mean, in most firms they have the paid version of these tools. There could be even in banks these days they have LLMs, right? However, it is a paid version which has an option that you can disable whether your data could be used for retraining their models. That's what they do. So, but this is a scenario where maybe it is very dependent on your firm allowing or not allowing at all, because I mean the tool's existence is something that is pretty much required for us to execute any use case, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means if at all your firm totally clamps down on LLM, then the only way for you to is go the code route, right? Or because if you believe that okay, my skills in Power BI are so superior that I would not require Python for any transformation, that's a different thing, right? Because we are not using LLMs only for transformations purpose, we are using it for multiple purposes, right? We are just maybe talking to data using an LLM. With Power BI that might not be possible. So with Power BI at max, what you can do, you can build visualizations, right? And maybe you can there's a feature in Power BI which has been recently introduced for anomaly detection. So I was planning to discuss that part as well. But yeah, this thing will always be a roadblock if your organization does not allow any LLM, right? For that matter, that's something we will. I mean that will become a roadblock. But since the class needs tools to proceed, and I need a LLM as a tool to teach, I mean, I think for maximum of us, it will always be there, because I have worked in investment banks which are still using LLMs.
Okay.
So, and investment banks have them, yeah, pharma, healthcare investment banks have equal kind of restrictions with data. So, yes. So maybe you can utilize this time to give a feedback so that we can, once Renita is back, we will quickly start on what do we have.
So I'm back.
Okay, fine. So yeah, Rinta, maybe you can refer to my message which I've put. So
Yes.
that, yes. So let's see what we have for today.
And also, so since we've been so vocal about our thought process, like for me, I've been always working for banks. My careers
Mm-hmm.
have always been investment banking firms,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and uh, unfortunately, after spending a decade in Dubai and after getting promoted and even being a top performer, my role was made redundant and it was given to an offshore team, because
Mm-hmm.
that's how these large investment banks, they keep their operations centralized either in India or Philippines and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So now the thing is, though I'm working now in a non-banking field altogether, my aim is to go back into the banking field. And
Mm-hmm.
since I'm based in Dubai and the competition is quite intense in terms of high we already have highly qualified accountants,
Mm-hmm.
and so if I have to create my USP, the only USP that I see these days is AI.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why. And the thing is, I'm not completely oblivious that I don't know certain things, but I do know. But even if of course it will take a lot of practice to get there, but then I see it as a USP that when someone knows something about AI, or even mastering prompt engineering as well. So that's
Mm-hmm.
from my aim from this course, is how to create a USP for myself.
Okay.
I may not know all everything out here, but if like for example with Power BI, I was struggling, though I did have a gist of it. But I
Mm-hmm.
think just one refresher course or something in terms of how to navigate around would be great. That's what which I've conveyed earlier.
Yes, 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 for sure.
And
Because even
yeah,
Kishore mentioned that having a session or two in Power BI would be helpful, because that was his initial kind of expectation. So we will maybe slot in a Power BI, one or two sessions in Power BI somewhere maybe after the next couple of classes. We will try to do that.
right, so thank you so much.
And so just one thing, will we also cover Tableau? Because I don't think we touched that.
No, Tableau, the problem is it's a licensed tool, right? So you will have to have license for Tableau. So because I mean, yeah, we can see, the thing is we can focus on one visualization tool, because even in the visualization tools were not part of the curriculum, right? But we can just have a very rough refresh on how Tableau works, right? But the problem is Tableau is a licensed tool. You would require a very expensive license to operate that right?
Okay.
So it doesn't make sure for, unless your organization has it doesn't make any sense for you to go to Tableau, because it'll cost you upwards of 80K per month, per year or something. So yeah, it's a pretty expensive license. So we will restrict our your visualizations to Power BI. I can quickly show you in Tableau how you can build a visual, maybe for half an hour or so, but not beyond that, because it will not be very helpful considering the licenses. Okay. So again, the whole process is we should not pigeonhole our thought process that we will only deal with data. So AI does not just have a usage with data, right? So that's the reason. Have you? I think I'm not sure whether you people noticed. We also focused a bit on building presentations from prompts, right? Because now what I have seen a real use of AI, right? Specifically the last name that you see on this napkin AI, right? That's an amazing tool when you are designing infographics for your presentations, right? And that's a real world use case. So maybe we can start off with that today rather than start off with Gemini. We will anyways use Student tomorrow for our anomaly detection in invoices and also in non-invoices. So we will actually be doing two anomaly detection use cases instead of one. But what my thought process is, because again, the idea is to add value in whichever way you can use AI. I did not want to miss out on this particular thing because it is really amazing, right? A really amazing tool whenever you are designing your PPTs, right? So assume that you are not doing it through AI, even you want to like just create an infographic for a PowerPoint presentation. This is the perfect tool, Napkin AI. So maybe we can quickly spend 10 minutes today exploring Napkin AI, and then we can go on to our Gemini, Google AI Studio, and our use cases. Okay. So I'll stop the share. So one of you can volunteer, maybe one of you can volunteer. Maybe sure you can volunteer, right? So maybe after you put in the feedbacks, maybe you can share your screen and we can volunteer, right?
Sure, sir. I was texting the feedback,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you
Once
can.
you are done, you can share your screen.
Sure, sir. I mean, if in the interest of time, like
Yeah.
Renita was proposing, if you can share your email, we can send you an email and you
Okay.
can continue
Yeah.
with the class
Sure, sure.
because
I
it will
will put
require
it.
some thinking to share. So,
Fine, fine. So you can share something if you are putting it, or you can directly share it in the email that I am putting to you. I have putting to Renita as well. Yes. Yeah, I have shared my email with you also, Kishore. So just making sure that till now, has it ever been that you had doubts which I did not clear? Uh, so I'll start with Renita. Renita, has it ever been that there were doubts, but those are not addressed or cleared?
I think so. With the, I'll be very frank since we're just being so vocal. Like even during Power BI,
Mhm.
it's just that I think probably I was in the spotlight, and so I got a bit nervous to even ask you further,
Okay.
and with multitasking at home as well. So
Okay.
I couldn't even address it, and so I didn't want it to sound silly or ignorant out there. So I just preferred being probably asking it later. So
So,
I think
okay.
that's my
Yeah,
opinion.
but going forward, whatever I'll prefer is we ask the doubt upfront, right? So that it doesn't linger for multiple classes later on, because we may not even remember what we had doubt in mind, right? So it's always upfront, because that's how it will be the best. So
Got it.
whenever you have it, just ask it, and you shouldn't ever be bothered that what will people think of me. If is this a stupid question? Is it a smart question? No. If you have a doubt, see, you have paid for this course, right? So it's your
Yes.
right to even ask any sort of doubts, right? Now, whether I am able to answer everything on the spot, that's a different thing, because there could be, even with the smartest guy on the planet, there could be a 10% possibility he or she may not be able to answer every question on the spot, but I can also make sure it does not remain unanswered, right? So it's always encouraged to ask it then and there. right?
So yeah, we'll make a conscious effort now going forward.
Right, right. Okay. Now, okay. So maybe one of you can share your screen and open something called Napkin AI. Anyone of you wants to share the
Sir, I'll
screen?
share, sir. Just give me like 2 minutes if that's okay.
Sure,
I'll
sure,
just
sure,
finish my feedback and
sure, sure,
maybe I can send you something elaborate in an email as well. So just two
sure,
minutes is
sure.
what I will need.
Absolutely, no issues. Mhm.
Hi Kishore, if you're not ready, would you like me to share my screen?
Yeah, Nita, even you can share, not an issue. Anyone, anybody is, anything is fine.
I'm fine, Renita. If you're okay,
Okay, I'll
then
share
we
my
go
screen
ahead.
then. Okay, thank you.
Otherwise, I'm ready as well. So
If you're ready, okay. All right, Kishore, go ahead, share your screen. There's some disturbance at home. I'll probably do it a little late.
okay, sure. Just a second. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, it's the first link. So it says the visual AI for business storytelling, right? So you can just sign in with your Gmail, Google, whatever it is. Oh, sorry. You go back, go back. Just there is a get napkin free. Yeah, click on that. Yes. Now you can sign it with Google. The first option. Yeah, anything that is comfortable to you. So I'm giving you a prompt. Yeah, you just select an option for work for personal use for school. So you can just say others and proceed. It's just say NA. NA. And it doesn't matter actually. You can just select others and do next. Or just any. How did you hear about us? Just select any random thing. Doesn't matter. This is for just the keep track on how from where people came. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Create my first napkin. Right. So here, what you know, how would you like to add text? By posting my text content, by generating text using it. Go for the first one by pasting my text content. Yes. Right. Now, if you see, I have given you a prompt. You can simply copy that prompt as an example. It is there in the chat. Yeah. So please read this once. It's saying the transformation is best understood by tracking the four core enablers that have emerged between these 2 years, the 2023. Will define the path in. First, there is a steady decline in battery cost. This is talking about EV segment, right? Decline in battery costs, which have fallen from this per kilowatt hour to in 2010 to 100 in 2003, and are projected to drop further to $60 at the end of the decade. Now, just imagine that this is something that's part of your presentation. Now, how would you best describe this? Would it make sense to just type this text for people to read in your presentation? Or would you think it's better if this was an infographic, right? So what Napkin does, it takes your text and makes an infographic out of it. So what you can do is click on the blue icon generate visual and see what options you get. So it reads your text and tries to. So see, these are so many options that you get, right? This is just the first option on the left. Evolution of battery cost, right? So this is an infographic compared to whatever you typed, right? You can directly take this and put it in a presentation and PPT. Now on the top on the left, you see there is a there are multiple icons here. Just focus, don't click, just focus on the first one. So if you see, just by focusing, it will change. So for the same thing, you'll get multiple different ways of showing. Don't focus on anyone. If you focus, it will take only that, but just focus on, so don't click on anything. Just focus on that. Yes, focus on the second one. You'll see it will change. This is how it will show. Focus on the third one. This is how it will show. Focus on the fourth one. This is how it will show. Right? Fifth one, this is how it will show. And so on. Just see this. Now if you go back to the this bars, which one we had, right? Yes. Now think of this. Which one would you prefer? The 4 lines of text there, or maybe this infographic in your presentation? And when I'm talking about presentation, it could be any. So don't be fixated at this text. This was just an example text to generate this. It could be any financial 2-liner, 3-liner, 5-liner, or a paragraph, right? Which you want to convey to your management. It could be about certain fraudulent transactions that you have detected. So this is directly from text. You can create this. You can explore further more. I guess there will be more icons, right? Yeah, some will make a lot of sense, some may not make so much sense, but you have so many options. See, this, for example, is very EV specific and battery specific, right? So yes, so this was just an example of how you can use a tool called Napkin AI, which is wonderful, right? For infographic generation. And not only that, you can not, you don't, it doesn't need a single line, 2 line, 3 line, 4 line. It can even take a paragraph and entire page, right? To generate this infographic. Not only that, you can also generate presentations from Napkin AI by giving a prompt. For example, you can say that please generate presentation/icons for impact of AI in finance. So it will create those infographics for you, right? Which is super cool, isn't it? So instead of explaining someone the use of AI in finance through words, you can simply be explaining them through visuals and infographics. So that's the amazing tool called Napkin AI. So once you explore this further, you will understand the benefit. Now, I want you to compare this with ChatGPT and Claude right now. Compare the exact prompt. Okay. Copy it. Now you have to make certain changes in the prompt because Napkin AI is basically a, what do you say, infographic generator. Now if you go to chat, so at least 10 or 15 options you got in Napkin AI. Now let's generate in ChatGPT. We have to we have to put one extra line at the end or at the bottom. Better at the better at the start. Please generate an image for the following paragraph. And put that in quotation or colon, yeah, whatever it is, right? Just copy it and paste it in Claude next. Now press enter. Yeah, I think ChatGPT would be doing it for you. Okay, till it's doing, we can see how it is generating. It will take a couple of minutes. So now our job is to compare the richness of option and relevancy that we got in Napkin versus whatever we are going to get in either of these two. Right? This looks good, but it's just one single option. Right? Good enough for a chart. From the data, it has created this chart. Right? Look and feel is good, pretty informative, but just one single thing. Right? Let's go to ChatGPT. It's about to generate. Yes. Okay, types, right? So now I'll ask Renita, because Kishore generated this. Renita, if you had to rank 1, 2, and 3 in terms of preferences, how would you go about these three tools for the exact same prompt?
So, sir, I'll visually I find the Captain I'm saying Napkin AI
Napkin.
quite
Uh-huh.
appealing.
Hmm.
And one second, just seeing how it looks. I'm just checking how it looks in Claude.
So my
Like
suggestion is,
though all three,
yeah.
sorry, all three have they have given a visual representation in
Hmm.
terms of graphs. But I for me personally, I like it the way Napkin AI represents it.
Hmm. Okay. So my other suggestion to both of you is, because only two are present here. Don't do the exact same thing. Like if Kishore is doing it, don't do the same thing rent at the same, because we understand we are operating in the free tier, right? So the credits will be limited. So what we can make use of is, if Kishore is doing something, he's exhausting his credits. Maybe for something else we can utilize your credits, right? So that was the plan,
Understood.
because unfortunately we are in the free tier, right? We have limited credits.
Understood. Okay, sir.
Yeah. So yeah. So I think, yeah, Kishore, now we will understand your like evaluation of these three tools for the same use case.
Yes, sir. So I think I'll start off with the least favorite. So least
Hmm.
favorite is ChatGPT here. I
Hmm.
mean, it talks about, uh, I mean, it's a bar chart with the dollar value and the year.
Hmm.
But I think this is very dry in terms of visually appealing. Now, if I talk
Hmm.
about Claude, so here maybe something similar, but there are highlights on how it is.
Hmm.
So this is my second favorite on how easily I'm able to understand the data.
Hmm.
And when I talk about the Napkin AI, so this is very catchy, even though it's pretty much the same representation, like the dollar amount and how it is
Hmm.
trending.
Hmm.
I think it's very catchy and it's nice. So I think I'm in split between Claude as well as Napkin AI,
Hmm.
but ChatGPT not so much.
The benefit that Napkin AI gives you is at least 20 options for the same thing, right? So yeah. So you just need to go again, select it, maybe yeah. So I think why is it giving an error? So you just need to you can go again. Just type napkin AI and go again. So all you need to do is select the text again and click that bolt icon, yellow blue bolt icon on the right. That should be fine. Okay, fine. So next, maybe what we will do is we will talk about the remaining like topics for today. So the idea is just to use Google Gemini and Google AI Studio today, and I am going to give you certain files which we will use that we will use for mm, uh, anomaly detection, right? So what I would do is I will share the file with you directly. Then maybe we will understand once you open the file, we will try to understand about the file a bit and then discuss that if AI was not there and you were actually doing this thing manually, what are the things you would have looked at in this data set, how would have thought about doing it, and then we will use maybe multiple AI for like tools to analyze the anomaly in this, right? So let me share the file with you, and then maybe we can take a quick 5 minutes break, and then we can come and start with Gemini. So I'm just sharing the files with you right now. So I've shared three files, two datasets and one Python notebook. So you can actually download all three. Tableau Public, the biggest issue in Tableau Public is it has a restriction on the type of data sources it can take. Whereas Power BI Desktop doesn't have any restrictions on the data sources it can take. So Tableau Public is just for like learning purpose, but it's not pretty useful uh, to take data sources of all types. Yeah. So you can download these uh, things. So you can call it use case one anomaly detection, right? So all three, you can keep it there. So maybe we can come back in 5 minutes and we can begin with this. We'll just take a quick 5 minutes break and we'll begin with this.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Hello.
I'm back, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We are.
Okay. Fine. So maybe since Kishore has already downloaded, he can share that. He can first open the file, which is invoice data anomalies detection, or he can open ledger with anomalies. Any one of that. Ledger with anomalies is also fine. Either of that is fine. Right. So let's open the data first and see what exactly is the data set. Okay. So even though you people are proper finance people, I would not really require to, because I'm not a proper finance guy, I'm an AI guy. So your understanding of ledger would be far more than me, right? So yeah, just open that data set. Yeah. So what do we have? We have date, we have the account, we have the debit, credit, and whether it's a regular. Can you go up and put a filter on description and see what are the values we have? Regular and suspicious, right? So this is what we have. Now, what my understanding of the entire thing is, this is going to tell you, right, where you've written down every single financial event that happened. The first column is going to tell you when it happened, right? The next columns are going to tell you what's the account column, what it was for, right? Was it for paying the electricity bill, that is utilities, paying the employee, that is salary expense, and so on, right? Next was the credit. Next is the credit and debit, right? So when it happened, what was it for is already answered. So now these two columns will answer how much it was, right? So money spent, money earned, etc., right? So for incoming money, you have credit, and for outgoing money, you have debit, right? And description is that extra notes that you have, right? So this is what we see when we look at this data set. Now, from your end, I'll just ask you, right? What can be the top 5 anomalies or mistakes that can happen in this ledger? So based on your prior understanding of this area, could you point out there could be 5 different issues that could be an issue here, could be an anomaly, right? Or a mistake. What could those be? Maybe the top 5 as per you.
One thing I could think of is either an expense is incorrectly categorized.
Miscategorization, you mean, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Could you give an example?
Um, Probably just an example like travel expenses categorized should have been an office supply
Mhm.
or vice versa,
Okay,
but was categorized
right.
incorrectly.
So yeah, I think miscategorization or wrong category is something Anita mentioned, right? It could be an expense or income is put into the wrong bucket or account, right? And one example that I can think of is, let's say the owner buys a new TV, right, for their home using the company credit card, and they record it as office supplies in the ledger, right? And why this is anomalous? Because your personal TV isn't a business expense, right? And it gives a false picture that whatever you spend is being done for office expense, right? Office supplies. So that is pretty much a very big issue, miscategorization. What else?
And another thing which I'm not sure how would it be detected, but if the system doesn't have a mechanism of capturing duplication, so
Yes,
probably
that
there was a travel expense duplicated.
right. So that's the second issue, actually, duplicate transactions, right? Same payment or sale is recorded twice by mistake or maybe not by mistake. So you pay the internet bill of 50 rupees on Monday, and on Friday you forgot to pay it and you accidentally pay the exact 50 rupees again, right? So you look like you have put 100 rupees for internet expense, which is wrong. So duplicate transaction, miscategorization are two big issues. What else can you think of?
And another, probably it was a prior financial year's expense, but booked in as a current year, or it could have
Does
been an
that really
accrual.
happen a lot? I mean, it's pretty rare, isn't it so?
It's very rare.
Hmm.
What the other instance that I've seen is probably it we should have accrued for it, and but we've expensed it out instead.
Hmm. Okay. So, Kishore, would you like to take couple of tries here?
Yes, I think duplication was what I had on my mind. And second, maybe like the one that I'm pointing out, it says sales revenue, but it says debit. Maybe it
Hmm.
should be on the credit side. So interchange of
Yeah.
columns,
Wrong
either
entry type or the debit credit mix up, right?
a debit credit mix up is one of the things.
Right.
And also the date, maybe they can, I mean, date or any other column, they can be a typo. It could
Yeah.
be an
Transaction
amount.
on weird dates, basically, right?
Correct.
So no, but when you say typo, is it because the format is wrong, or what exactly do you think it is a
No, I
typo?
mean, what I meant is while entering the amount, let's say in your example, it can be 800 or it can be entered as 8,000. So we can't really know what is the real value behind. So that could also
Okay.
be a possibility of a wrong amount entered.
But you said dates, right?
Date also.
Okay.
So here, example, I mean, the format that we are following, if it's MMDDYY
Hmm.
versus while entering, maybe it's the other way around. So the month and the date sometimes can be interchanged. And so that could also lead to some of the confusions or errors.
Okay. So my take on dates, because dates are really important, is if you have transactions on weird dates, right? And an example of that could be recording a business activity on a day it couldn't have happened, like a weekend or a public holiday, right? Let's take an example that your ledger shows a salary expense dated on a Sunday, right? Most banks are closed and payroll systems don't process on a Sunday, right? So this might be suspicious. So it could be suspicious, or it might be a case where the date was incorrectly entered, right? As an example. So yeah, those could also be something. And as you already spoke of credit debit mix up, right? It's a very basic fundamental accounting error, right? Your money earned, which is your revenue, should be a credit, while money spent or expense should be a debit. Mixing them up, for example, uh, a business makes a sale of, let's say, 10,000 rupees, right? That becomes your income. So it should be in the credit column. Somebody accidentally put it in the debit column, right? So it will incorrectly show a 10,000 rupees expense instead of a 10,000 rupees gain, right? So that messes up everything, right? So I think more or less you've discussed top five things that can go wrong, right? Top four we discussed, maybe miscategorization, duplicacy, debit credit mix up, and weird dates. What one thing we didn't discuss is unusual amounts or outliers, right? Which means for a particular category, the number is such that it looks unusually low or unusually high. For example, let's say a company's electricity bill is around 5,000 per month. And in 1 month, the ledger shows 50,000, right? It could be a mistake of a decimal point. Instead of 5,000.00, you have put 50,000.0, right? So that could be a fraud, it could be a power leak, whatever, but it doesn't seem to be proper. And we should identify all of those, right? Now, let's look at our data. So what we will do is, we will try to handle it uh, three ways, basically, right? So if you open the notebook that I have shared with you in Collab, so this is isolation forest for ledger anomalies. So yeah, we can just open Collab and upload this file. We can go to the upload option. right? So what we can do here is we can go up, right? There is a ledger with anomalies CSV file we have provided, right? You can actually yeah, this file you can actually upload into this. There's a folder symbol on the left. Yes, you can upload this file. Okay. So what you need to understand here is what is isolation forest here. Okay. So I'll explain this in the simplest possible way so that you don't get confused, right? It's a very small piece of code. So again, whatever I've done, I put comments so that you know what is anomaly detection. If you have to do direct anomaly detection in any ledger, invoice, whatever, we already have a pre-built package called isolate. It's an algorithm called isolation forest. We don't need to understand anything of that. We can simply go to the first row. So it says first anomaly detection using isolation forest. So these three are very standard code lines, which is importing the package, import pandas as PD. So what it does, it allows you to access the data in an Excel format, like not Excel, like a row slash column data frame format. Pandas for data frame. So it'll try to read the data like a row slash column data frame. Then you have sklearn ensemble isolation forest. This is simply importing the isolation forest. Then matplotlib is used to plot this. These are very basic things which will be very constant. You don't need to change anything. Next step, what you're doing is you're only importing the file, like df equals to read.csv file name. This is a very standard step. Third, only numeric features are required, right? Here you can take debit because what I saw is most of credit was 0, right? So assuming that this is just a rare occurrence, what we'll do, we'll pick up any of the credit and debit. In this case, let's pick up debit as a column and we want to see if there are any anomaly in debit, right? The only code you see is CLF is calling the function isolation contamination is 0.1. I'll explain this, right? Now it says configure my model called isolation forest, telling that you can assume that approximately 10% of the data has anomalies, or 0.1 is 10%, right? And then you call the method, show the anomalies, and you plot it. So can you run it? Again, run all, just do run all. From the top, you can go to runtime. Yeah, or here also, yeah, run all. Let it run. So what it does is, if you see -1 in anomaly means it is anomalous. How do I know that? In that show anomalies column, you are saying that if anomaly is detected, put a -1 in this column. So in your data set, which will be generated, any value which is -1 in anomaly column will be anomalies. And this is the visual description of how the frequency of those anomaly amounts. Okay. So this is just a very quick run through of how a simple low code way of doing it, right? Not too many codes, just very standard way of like importing the package, importing the data set, and running the isolation forest package. That's all. Isolation forest is very, very powerful in doing your anomaly detection. Now, what we will do is we'll understand two things now, right? First thing, again, I can explain isolation forest so that you understand how it works, right? Just for the sake of understanding, right? So there are many kind of algorithms which we have. This is one kind of algorithm which is unsupervised, means which it does everything on its own without us providing a lot of instructions here, right? So it does anomaly detection or outlier detection. And how does it work? It works on that intuition principle, which I will explain with a couple of examples. You have to consider the fact that you have to assume that your data set has two types of data. One is a normal data point, right? The other is an anomalous data point, right? So this is the basic thing that you'll assume. that my data set has just two types of data points, anomalous and normal, right? In a very, very simple way, I'll explain that a normal data point is like an average person, right, inside a crowd. Now, is it so easy to isolate that, an average looking person in the crowd? That's the first question I'll ask you. Let's say you are looking at a crowd. Is it easy to isolate an average looking person in the crowd? Yes, no? If you have a crowd and
No,
you have
sir.
an average looking person in the crowd, is it easy to isolate him? The answer is no, right?
Yes,
In
sir,
this
it
case,
becomes
Yes.
difficult. Correct.
exactly. So to isolate them, you have to find them by asking lot of questions, right? Like, are they in the left half? Are they in the front quarter? Are they in the back row? So a lot of questions for you before you can actually spot them. Now think about the other part, which is the anomalous point. The anomalous point could be like a person who is 7 feet tall, right? He's wearing a bright orange coat. Do they stand out? They do, right? It stands out in the crowd. A 7 feet person using wearing a bright orange coat stands out in the crowd, right? You can isolate them with very few questions. And that question could be as simple as, is the person taller than 6.5 feet, right? And then you suddenly find them by asking a single question, is the person taller than 6.5? Now, the example that I gave, what do you understand? Isn't it that the isolation forest works in the exact principle of asking this one question to spot out the outliers, right? So this example was just given to tell you that how easy it is to spot outliers rather than normal points. Clear, guys?
So I just have a question.
Yes.
This isolation would be part of that. Do we manually input this, or would it be part of the file and then it would appear once you start running that file?
Uh, I didn't understand. So basically, are you talking about the data file or the Python file?
This one, so once it starts running its coding out here, where it's saying the fit model hash, this line of code creates and configures an anomaly detection called
You
isolation
don't
forest.
need to provide anything here. All you need to provide is that you input the data set on the left panel, right? Ledger with anomalies. After that, you just run the code, right?
Yeah, so
Now,
so that,
huh,
so that's what I want to know, sir. That would the anomaly that we would want this
hmm,
isolation forest to detect,
hmm.
would it be already in? Would it be part of that coding file that we upload?
No, so it will not be part of the input file, but what you can do is you can just put one line of code to download the output file. So it will be part of the output file. So I can maybe give you that code. You just need to download the file after it has run the process, and that extra column will be there.
Okay.
So you can just filter out that Excel. So that I'll show you. Now, remember one thing. Today, your actual first question should be, this looks easy and good, but what if my data set changes tomorrow? What if I have to run this data set on a different file with a different column name? What if in the same data set, I want to run it on credit rather than debit? Do I have to write the code again? The answer is no. What you need to do is, I'll tell you where you need to make changes. First change would be on the second block where you say the file name. If your file name is something different, just change the file name there, right? Next, the other change you will make is in the first line of the second block, which says x equals to df of debit. Here you are specifying on which column you are going to run the anomaly detection. Today, in the same file, if you want to run it on credit, just change the name from debit to credit. Tomorrow, if you are taking a new file XYZ, which is a column called ABC. So first change the name of the file XYZ and the column name to ABC. That's the only change you have to do, right? Everything else will take care of as it is. Now, where other than that, where you may have to make minor changes is in the last plot section. In plot section, I'm saying which is my column I want to plot. What is the name of the column? There, whatever is in the red, I just need to make changes. Like instead of debit, if I have to do credit, I'll just change the name of debit to credit there, right? I'll change the name called credit amount distribution. That's all, right?
So these are minor changes you need to do in the code for you to be able to run this, right? So let me give you one more here.
So I have a question. I'm just thinking in terms of my work experience. For example, we use ARP tool SAP,
Yes.
and I take the entire ledger dump.
Huh.
Now, usually I would have put it in, there would be templates to figure out everything, and it runs accordingly as per the ledger heading and so on. But
Mm-hmm.
if I have to use that as a data set, that ledger extract of SAP, where
Hmm.
obviously there would be for SAP, there are numeric numbers, numeric this associated with debits or credits.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, it's a different header altogether. So then isolation forest for ledgers. So would the coding again change? I mean,
No,
there would
no,
be.
no.
Okay.
So here what will happen is we are not going into the algorithm. We're just calling the algorithm. Now, whatever we other than that you're given is based on the name of the file and the column name. Now, the first thing is if your uh, SAP structure again. The here is you cannot directly run import the SAP file here. Maybe you'll have to import it as a CSV or an Excel, right? And change the name. But if your headers which means credit or which means debit, but is something different, then you will just need to refer to that column in the X equals to. So the first thing is to referring, just telling the code that please do it for this column. Otherwise, the code will not know which column I need to run my algorithm on, right? So in that same SAP file, if you have multiple columns on which you run, you can actually put multiple column, debit, comma, credit, comma, ABC, comma, CY, DEF, like that. You can put that X can be multiple columns which you want to run together, right? The problem with running on multiple columns is if the scale of value is very different. For example, the age of a person will most likely be 2 digits, but a salary will most likely be 4 or 5 digits, right? So if you run everything together, there is a risk that the value with higher like digits is thought of as a predominant value there, which means even if you have a 3 digit number in age, since it's still smaller compared to a 5 digit number, there could be a risk sometimes that the algorithm misreads it as a valid value. So it's always advisable that you run one column at a time, but you can run in a loop, but always run one column at a time. So Linda, did I answer your question that what if the column name change, the column header change, even the format changes? As long as we know this is column X, we just need to refer that column X there.
Okay. And so we correct me if I'm wrong, sir. So if we make these changes out here, right,
Hmm.
in this coding structure where starting from X.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes, only those that column name you have to change. That's all. And the file name if it changes.
Okay.
And in the plot, you have to rename it. Like if you're not doing it, see the red portions in the plot area, right? That because in the
Mm-hmm.
plot, it will show like that, right? It is showing debit amount distribution because I have hardcoded it as a debit amount distribution. You can call it ABC distribution. So that will appear as ABC on top, right? Those red parts that you see in the plot area. There's the last area.
Yes.
So those you need to
Yes.
change accordingly. That's all. Nothing more in the code. It's a very, very like simple code. It's actually very low code. You talk about coding, it's low code. Now we will try
Okay.
to go to the no code approach for this, right?
Okay.
Savitra sir, Kishore here. Just a quick question. So
Yes.
the amount, I mean, I understand that you're referencing the debit and it is
Huh.
calling out the anomalies. Now, what is the method? Like, is there a calculation which it runs, taking out
Yes.
the average, like a mean or something, and calculating the differences and showing that as an output? How does it work?
So basically, it's again a very complex process. So it's an algorithm that does on its own isolation forest. So what any machine learning algorithm does is it calculates couple of basic metrics like your mean, median, mode, standard deviation, and something called a Z score. right, in statistics. So basically, outliers are mostly identified if they are a number which is more than 3 standard deviations away from the mean, and where z score value is greater than or greater than +3 or less than -3, right? So that's how it generally happens. But this, when the base statistically remains the same, this algorithm again uses something called, I mean, it's again a very pretty much deep learning algorithm, right? So it runs multiple times, and then it tries to minimize the error between what is expected and what it sees. So it will be a complex process to explain, but it's a deep learning algorithm. So all of that actually happens at the back end for it to identify whether this transaction is actually an outlier transaction or not. But it statistically follows a calculation of Z score and standard deviations away from the mean.
Sure, sir. Just a follow-up question. I mean, I've done
Yes.
something similar using Alteryx. So we have, I mean, we also work on SAP data for general ledger downloads, more
Mhm.
on how costs are getting booked and trying to find out the anomalies or the outliers.
Mhm.
Now, in that project which I worked on, so it was a combination of different things. Here, we are just saying the debit amount, but
Mhm.
the checks that we were doing is like a time horizon,
Mhm.
the account like you have mentioned here, and
Mhm.
also the debit. So do we have an option of including multiple check parameters to
Yes.
find out
So
the
all you have to
anomaly?
do is that's so remember that X equals to DF debit. That is where you have to do comma credit comma ABC comma XYZ. This is where you can expand. Right. This is what I was explaining before. Right. You can
Yes.
do multiple, but the problem again sometimes it so happens. Again, it may happen, may not happen. If you have different scales of values, like debit or salary being in 5 units and age being in 2 units, it sometimes could lead to one particular column acting as a predominant column and overshadowing the impact of others, right? So it's always advised that you do it one by one, but there is no harm or no restriction in doing multiple things at the same time, just by putting a comma, column A, comma, column B, comma, columns in that row itself.
Sure, sir. I mean, just as an example, so in the entire data set, travel can stick out because it is like 5 lakhs or 500,000. But if
Right.
it is like a lease rent or some other thing, then maybe it holds good. So if you compare it with the with everything together, then might not be accurate. So this is where I was thinking if we can put multiple conditions saying, okay, we
Yes.
have a threshold for office supplies. If the deviation is between this range, it's an anomaly. So I was just thinking if putting those multiple criterias and thresholds is possible using this method.
Yeah, it is possible, but what I know isolation forest does is it actually calculates it independently does it by your account type. So it is just does not pick the debit. It picks up the debit to find the anomaly, but it also takes into account the dates, the account, the description, everything, right? Because what could have one anomaly could be again that you had one transaction at the start of the year and you had no transaction for the entire year and one transaction in December. So that also becomes an anomaly, right? So for it to highlight that why it's happening only once or twice a year. So it actually takes into account all of this, even though the calculation is only on the debit column.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
Fine. So next, this was a low code approach, right? Next, we can do a no code approach where maybe we go to LLM, right? Use the same data set, and I have a prompt which I have created. I can share the prompt with you. Or rather, yeah, we can ask. Okay, so now one thing you saw is what is in your control in this entire code. The contamination is in your control, right? You see point one, right? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir,
Yeah.
we're hearing.
So the contamination is something that is in your control, right? You can make it point one. I can make it point two, right? So, but what is the risk? Now, in the language of machine learning, this contamination, which you see as 0.1 is called as hyperparameter, right? So you're setting this hyperparameter for this model, right? The contamination parameter tells the algorithm that this much proportion of data set you expect to be an outlier. Now, the algorithm calculates an anomaly score for every single data point. Okay, if you have 1,000 rows, it will calculate the anomaly score for all 1,000 rows. Now, the contamination value is then used to define the threshold on these scores, right? So the model adjusts these thresholds so that the top 10% of the most anomalous looking points are classified as outliers, right? Will be labeled as -1. And the other 90% are called inliers or normal points, and they'll be labeled as +1, right? Now, as I mentioned very clearly that this is something that is in your control. But there are a lot of downsides in not putting a reasonable contamination value, right? If you set it too high, like 0.3, you're saying 30% of my data is anomalous. You might incorrectly label many normal points as anomalies, right? Which is false positive. Everyone is aware of this term called false positive, right?
Not really, sir. Not me.
Okay. In statistics, in this case, what will happen if I put the contamination value of 0.3? It will tell the model 30% of my data is outliers. Whereas actually 10% of your data could be outliers. So now what you're doing, you are creating false positive in which almost 20% of your normal data points are getting categorized as anomalies, right? You're getting a point. So actually they were normal, but they got classified as anomalous because you put a very high value of 0.3. Clear?
Okay, sir.
Now, what is false negative then? I'll ask you people because I've already discussed false positive. What would be false negative and when will it happen? I'd like to hear it from you. Same example. What's false negative here and what could happen? Yes?
Probably that it's not an issue, but it's classified as an issue.
Yes. So if you set these contamination too low, let's say 0.01, you're using 1% of my data is outlier. You might actually miss genuine outliers, right? Because you're only saying 1% of your data is outlier. So if 10% of your data is outlier, you are missing almost 9% of genuine outliers. So this is false negative, right? So it is very, very important that you put a proper threshold. Now continuing with the same thing.
Sir, I just had a question. How do you
Yes.
determine the threshold, like for that data population?
Okay. So this actually comes with experience and maybe your understanding of the data set, right? And past history, right? But assuming you're unsure, you can actually use the value called AUTO, auto, right? So initially when you're not sure, just use the value auto. But mostly we say that the outliers can vary between 7 to 10%, right? So, but again, this is something that will come with experience. Assume that you have been working in this area for like 5 years, and you know that generally 7 to 10% outliers come month on month or year on year. So you know what the general thresholds are. But for somebody who is new, he can use auto go to get started.
Okay, sir.
Sir, if it is possible, can we use the same example and see what auto gives us? Is it giving 10% or how can we make those changes? So do I change the contamination as auto instead of
So
10?
so what I can see is, let's see how let's try to put contamination equals to AUTO.
Sorry, could you repeat, sir? Contamination equal to?
AUT auto. Is it in quotations? Is it taking default equals to auto?
Okay.
It might give an error upfront. It might be unable to resolve it. Not capital A. Just try with small a once. Small AUTO. In single quotes. Single quotes. Just try it once. Yeah, it worked, right? What you saw earlier, it was mostly suspicious, one regular, so the distribution somehow changed, right? Saw that, right, guys? The values and some of the distributions are actually changed.
Yes, sir.
So auto will automatically try to figure out what could be the best, right? So maybe 10% could have been slightly higher or lower. We don't know. So auto worked, but it may have gave a slightly different value than maybe which we had initially, right? So unless you're sure, because it will only come with experience of the data set and all, it's better to use auto upfront.
Sir, can you just repeat one time positive and negative anomaly that you were explaining?
Not positive and negative. It was like your false positive and false
False
negative, right?
positive and false negative,
Okay.
correct. So can you explain that one more time if you
Huh.
don't mind?
False negative is, I'll give another example for you to understand the concept first. Let's say you are a police guy and your job is to catch criminals, right? So, and let's say in a group of people in the room, there are only 10 criminals. Group of 100 people, there are 10 criminals, right? What will happen if you catch 20 people and tell that all 20 are criminals? Some innocent people have been branded as criminals by you, right?
Yes.
Isn't it so? Hello?
Yes, sir.
So that is a false negative where somebody who was not a criminal has been branded as a criminal because you took a 20% rather than a 10% crime rate, right? Now that is false positive. Which was good, you instantly say it's bad in a very simple way, right? The other is false negative. Let's say there are 10 people who are criminal in the room of 100, but you only take 5 people. So what you have done, you have left 5 criminals in the room and they can cause trouble. So that is false negative. You are saying that there are only 5 criminals and 95 good men, but there are actually 90 good men and 5 criminals who we have not taken because we took a very less number, let's say point like 5% instead of 10, right? So many criminals got left behind. So which means we couldn't really classify many outliers because we took a narrow approach. That's false negative, right? Where maybe in the first case, my contamination was 30%. So a lot of 20% good points came in. Second case, my contamination was 1%. So almost 9% of outliers I lost in identifying. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Fine. So this was all about our low code approach. Now let's try our no code approach. Right? Let's go to any LLM for that matter. Right? Maybe we can ask few questions. We can import this data set there. right? And we can ask our first question. We can frame you can put any question. So I'm just thinking of one question which we can answer. Or we can just ask, can we identify outliers in the debit column? Something like that, right? Can we identify the number of outliers and show that graphically based on the debit column? Something like that, right? Just very basic prompt. We'll go to complex prompts later on. Can we identify the outliers and highlight the number of outliers and show them graphically in a scatter plot. And show them graphically in a scatter plot. And highlight the number of outliers and show them graphically. The outliers in debit column, highlight the number of outliers graphically in a scatter. Highlight the outliers. Or we can show and highlight and can we identify outliers in the debit column, comma, show the number of outliers, and highlight them graphically in a scatter plot. Scatter plot, not scattered plot, scatter plot. You graphically highlight them in a scatter plot. Okay. Scatter plot from the attached data set. Right. Enter. Put the same thing in ChatGPT. So these are the three outliers, right? And it has mentioned something also, right, in the text under that in Claude. So here they are using something called IQR. IQR is interquartile range. In statistics, what happens is you divide the data set into 4 parts, right? Q1 is your first quartile, which will have the first 25% of the data. Q2 will be your second quartile, which will, have you heard about this term called quartiles?
Yes, sir, but it would be
Okay,
nice
have
if
you
you
heard
could
about the
also.
term called percentiles?
Yes.
So similar, that is percentage, right? This is quartiles, 4 quartiles, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, 25, 25, 25, 25% of values, right? Now, something outlier, something will be outside those, less than Q1 and so max and like lower than min and greater than max, right? So there is a Q max plus 1.5 into interquartile. There's a formula in statistics. I'm not going into depth. See, everything is based on statistics at the end of the day. So, but I am not asking you to learn statistics. Your outliers will be max plus 1.5 into IQR and min minus 1.5 into IQR. And that's the reason you have max and min and IQR, right? So that will give you those things. So here we are showing these three. There's some explanation they have given on the left, right? As you can see, whatever I was mentioning, Q1 minus 1.5 into IQR, Q3 plus 1.5 into IQR. That will be your, anything that falls beyond this will become your outliers. So they are saying that entry number 51 under travel and expense is an outlier, right? So basically they're showing these three outliers. There could be two more outliers where salary expense is 0 and one office supply is $1. That could also be two outliers, but they're only showing the higher outliers, I guess. No, but what it is saying is, the analysis clearly shows that all 5 outliers are clustered in the end of the dataset and marked as suspicious in the description. So it is actually detecting all 5 outliers. But because it is taking the higher value, it is showing those 3 here. The other 2 outliers are basically on the lower side, right? $0 and $1, right? Okay, let's go to ChatGPT and see what they've done. Is the same thing, same 3, is it? Go to chart. I cannot even see. Okay, that is on the top right. Very light color, but top right. Yes, these are outliers. Right? There are 3 outliers in debit column using IQR method. Here also they have by default used IQR method. Right? So IQR, these have been highlighted in red on the scatter plot. Okay, slight, yeah, orange and red. Well, the color combination is very similar, so it is difficult to spot. But the orange on the bottom is lighter, the red on the right is slightly darker. But I think we could have given for a better contrast, right? Let me know if you want the exact rows, clean data set, or to apply a different method. So remember, I was talking about Z score, guys, while I was talking, right?
Yes, sir.
So they can also use Z scores to identify outliers here. So IQR or Z score are 2 different ways we can identify outliers. Okay, statistically. So this, but what we can do is we can go now and ask some. So this is some basic outlier things that we did. We can ask some questions to detect further more anomalies, right? So I'll tell you maybe a couple of more prompts which we can ask, right? Maybe we can ask something like, maybe I'll give you the prompt. Let me type it. Okay. Now let me ask intentionally some question to the LLM, which is fundamentally incorrect in accounting, right? So you know that sales revenue should ideally be a credit. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So just use this prompt and see what it says. So this is intentionally created a way that it should highlight this. So I've pasted the prompt. So you can copy from there. In standard account prices, under the double entry booking, the classification of sales revenue as debit is incorrect. Most typical business context, here's why. It is explained, right? Now, sales revenue should be a credit. Now, if you go to your data set, raw data set, not here, direct Excel. Open that. Filter on sales revenue, if it is there. So it is incorrectly classified as debit, right? So it's a flaw, which your LLM will be able to capture. But since we were only asking anomalies, right, it somehow did not go for the misclassification yet, right? So now that could be our next question. Okay, maybe have we imported the entire data set here? We have, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, correct journal entry, sale, what else it is showing? Okay, cash is debit, this is credit, any which ways. Now, in the dataset that we just imported, we can ask, what are the misclassification or miscategorization? Right? In the dataset that we just imported, is there any miscategorization? A single word, I guess, miscategorization of debit and credit based on the account type. Account type. If yes, highlight all of those. So we're just making this prompt right on the go. So maybe if we take more time, we can make better prompts, but just see what's the spelling of miscategorization. Why is it highlighting? Okay, it's a different word, is it? It ideally can be with that hyphen, I guess. Hyphen. Yeah. Let's see. If yes, highlight all of those. Yeah. Let's see what it does. Let's do the same thing in Claude. Did we give the right prompt? Just go up. In the dataset we provided, what are the miscategorization of debit and credit based on the account type? Yeah, fine. Let's see. Sales revenue in debit. All three are sales revenue in debit. That is what it is. So I think this is the only, can we check all the other categories that we see in the Excel? This is something we know. What are the others? Miscellaneous office supplies, salary expense, travel expense, utilities. Everything else is an expense. This was a revenue. Miscellaneous, we don't exactly know what it is, but yeah, because so in a way we can assume that sales revenue is miscategorized. Confidently that sales revenue is miscategorized. Others are not, right? So
Yes, sir.
let's go to back to our LLM and see if Claude was able to catch that. Okay, normal side is credit. Okay, here it is giving this thing, if you see. Utility type is expense. Normal side should be debit. All 18 entries are in debit, right? Salary expense is debit. Total 8 entries. White. Okay. White shows that it is giving. Let's go into details of the issues found. Not here. Yeah, we can check here what is happening. Yeah, one is zero, right? You cannot have a zero salary expense, basically. I think that's what it is highlighting. Let's go to the detail of issues found. So then other than that, I think it is highlighting sales revenue as credit, all three. So it is wrong. A detailed issue found 4, high wrong side. Sales revenue in wrong side. Issue sales revenue recorded as debit instead of credit. Okay, that's fine. 6, sales revenue recorded as debit. Okay. Sales revenue recorded as debit. Okay. 4, salary expense. Entry has zero amount in both debit and credit. Recommendation, yeah, that is what we were discussing, right? Go up. No, that table that we saw. Go down. Yeah. So say office supplies, or there is no other issues. Only four issues saying that salary expense has zero. That is highlighted, but it's not a miscategorization. It is thinking it could be miscategorization because let's say zero was possible if it was miscategorized as a credit and had some value in credit, right? So that's why it is saying it's miscategorized, because it should see some value where it is not seeing in this column, in the debit column for salary expense. Rest salary revenue is kind of miscategorized, is what it is saying, which is what we exactly understand that this was a data set. With these prompts, we could have actually identified the miscategorization directly, right? Because our LLM also understands basic accounting practices, right? What else we can ask? Should we ask about duplicate values, or we discussed this, right? The date thing. So I'm just typing a prompt for you. Maybe you can run this prompt. Yeah, I've just given you a prompt.
We also spoke about expenses over weekends.
This one would take care of that. Same thing we can run in ChatGPT. I think that will give you the same output.
And it's only taking the amount, and travel expense can also be over a weekend.
What is saying 20 on a weekend as Saturday, no anomalies, which could be. So weekend transactions, this salary expense on a weekend is slightly doubtful. But if it's Saturday, some people work on Saturday, but I will assume that most people don't work on Saturday. So yeah, salary expense, sales revenue could be accrued on any day, so it's fine. So utilities, again, Saturday, Sunday, utilities, unless the money was spent on utilities on a Sunday when the office is closed, could be somewhat dicey. Office supplies on a Sunday doesn't really seem normal. Salary expense on Sunday is definitely a no, right? So travel expense on a Saturday is acceptable in the sense that somebody actually was traveling on a Saturday on official purpose. Miscellaneous, we don't really know what it is, so we cannot comment. But I think 4 or 5 of them do seem doubtful, right? So maybe we can test with one last prompt. Remember, we were what does it show here? It is important to see what does it show here. Medium. So it's good that this is risk categorizing as high and low risk, medium risk, right? Which will give us some insights into what can be definitely a risk also, right? So maybe we can test the last uh, thing for duplicates. I've given you a prompt. Maybe we can use that for duplicate identification. Right. So here we are giving very specific thing that there could be same amount or same pair on say different dates could exactly for the same account, right? Now, if you're saying that utilities was 100 and let's say salary was 100, that coincidence can happen. But utilities having the exact same thing on different dates might seem slightly doubtful, right? So here also we are like at a single prompt we are getting all these cases, which, see, again, this is not to see that these are complete fraud or anomalies. It gives you an insight that these are something I can cross check on again, right? That's the purpose, right? You will not do and go and directly go and charge the utilities guy that you are doing fraud. I saw that there are 4 entries. It could be a coincidence, right? Utilities could be like it will maybe a fixed thing that could be coming in out. But this gives you an insight that let me reinvestigate why it is exactly same. It could be fraud, it could not be fraud, may not be fraud, right? So that's the whole purpose. What does Cloud show you? Exact duplicate 0, no transaction with identical amounts on different dates. Near duplicate 7 pairs, transaction with very similar amounts within 5% difference, right? Suspicious pattern from 3 patterns, transactions showing concerning patterns, right? Now let's verify where ChatGPT is giving a very different answer to Claude. The ChatGPT showed you 4 same values, I guess, right? Or similar. But it is not same, it is similar, right?
It is similar, sir. Different dates, but different amounts as well. ChatGPT says that it's within the same date range, like very close debit values, and also the date.
Suspect duplicate entries. Okay. And does Claude identify these 4 or is it some different ones? Yeah, 8208 is identified. 8215 is also identified, right? 6276 and 6258. All 4 are identified here also.
Yes, sir.
Right? Time gap being low, right? But if I had to use Claude versus ChatGPT, I feel Claude has given a very detailed analysis of why some things are picked up. ChatGPT just gave me those 4, gave me some reasoning, right? But fairly low amount of reasoning. Here you see near duplicate, suspicious pattern, most suspicious duplicate pairs, high risk near duplicates, travel expense, all this. This is far more user friendly to deep dive rather than that, right? My personal opinion is this much information is really going to help me more than just showing what ChatGPT showed. Right? What's your opinion that in this particular duplicate case, which one would you prefer?
Claude, sir.
Yes. Right. So I think that we used 3 or 4 prompts, but this is one use case that we did, anomaly detection, which is very common. Again, we have just done ledger anomaly detection. There is something called invoice anomaly detection also, which is done, right? And we will do that tomorrow, right? And that's something that we will do tomorrow, completely new, right? So invoice anomaly detection will be something different. It won't be exactly same like this, right? So yeah. So this we will do tomorrow. But I think today, if we summarize what we did, we took up ledger. We tried the low code first, right? Where we went into the collab notebook and tried isolation first. Then we tried no code, where we went into an LLM and tried to give the 3 or 4 prompts. Now we can give more such prompts, right? In that LLM and try to get more concrete answers. But we are more or less assured that with the same data set, either we can go for isolation first with slight more code refinement, or we can go for LLM, which does the same job for us, right? Tomorrow, when we do invoice analysis, we will add a couple of more things to this, right? So we will have low code, no code, but we will have 1 or 2 more additional things that I will show you tomorrow, right? in addition to these two. So that's what we will do tomorrow. Okay.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Any questions till now?
No, sir.
No,
Not
sir,
right
they
now.
may pop up tomorrow.
Sorry, come again.
They may pop up tomorrow, the questions.
Okay, fine. So try this. Now I think today with this example, you people would have realized that prompting is so much important, right? We may think that it's just a prompt, but today, at least in today's example, you could have seen why prompts are really important, right? So it's not just a prompt. It is making our lives easier. It is allowing you to deep dive, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
hopefully today, to certain extent, we were able to like go into an industry use case, and we will be doing all these going forward. It will grow in complexity. So we're starting with the easy ones, and it will grow into complexity. But today, I just wanted to understand whether this to certain extent was helpful.
Yes, sir, it was.
And we will have those 2 sessions in Power BI at some point, maybe after tomorrow or maybe next week or so. So yeah, I think that we will definitely help, and that is not part of the curriculum. That's an additional thing that I'm doing just because it will be helpful. And my initial goal was always to have that, but since it was an instruction that is only AI, I feel that maybe it will be slightly remain incomplete if I don't focus on Power BI, because that's the tool of use that you would be doing at the end. So I will make sure that we have that, at least if not next week, maybe next to next week, but we will definitely have that very soon. So,
All right, sir, that'll be really helpful. Thank
and
you so
what
much.
I will suggest is, better rather than me generate a data set, you should bring in a data set of your use. You can anonymize the data, not an issue, right? But I would expect, because it's, if any one of you brings a data set of your, where you think that if somebody shows me a demo on this, it will be far more useful than me bringing a data set, right? So you bring your data set, we will do it on that, but just give it to me few days in advance, right? So that I also have a look on and I can see, okay, what is the best I can do on this, right? Rather than just giving it in the class. So maybe what I will expect is, you people look at what you can, maybe not immediately, but maybe in this week, think of a particular data set which maybe could be you could have used. You can anonymize the column names or the data values or whatever, it's your choice. But think of it, if a demo was given on this, it would have been supremely useful. So we will do a demo on that itself, right? But so maybe if Renita or Kishore, you have my email IDs, you can email that dataset mentioning that this is something we need a demo on when we do the regular, that 1 or 2 sessions on Power BI, right? So that will be helpful. So I will be expecting the dataset to come from you, not from me, right? But at least some advance, at least give me 3 or 4 days in advance so that I have time to look into that before I have the class. Is that fair?
Okay, sir. Understood.
Okay, fine. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bye.